One of the things that was really wonderful is the confluence of the different kinds of background that I have. It came together in sort of a systems engineering model. And so that was really valuable in looking at everything that we did in the social goods space, because it's an ecosystem, and what works one place doesn't work somewhere else. You learn about how to transient your ideas and how to move your ideas. You learn how to rethink, do your user needs assessment. And the engineering paradigm helped me to actually take a very structured look at how to do user needs assessment, and every time you go to apply it, redo it again and touch point again. So I think the background of taking the engineering, the computing, and the mathematics and pulling it together really helped. And then I had the opportunity to be, at this point in my life, at the IEEE, where I have a large network of people that I can pull from, connect in, and start to build a base of people who are interested. And that's the other half of the job that's not the techie side, but actually just the social networking side and the piece that's really about community building.
The most important thing is that music is a means by which you can communicate any issue, you know, and music is also a means by which you can shed light on important ideas and also be able to inspire action. You know, and I feel that every kind of technological innovation needs a means to create awareness before it can be adopted. So with this in mind, when I first came across, you know, that 4.3 million people, 4.3 million premature deaths happen around the world because of people using open fires and also cooking with traditional cook stoves. And the solution was by technological innovation, whereby cleaner versions of these cook stoves can lead to saving lives. I felt that it needed voices that can be able to help amplify this message, and in doing so to be able to really help people get it, adopt it, and in the long run lead to saving lives. You know, so as a musician, I feel that we create mediums of engagement, mediums of togetherness, and also we are able to bring very complicated, you know, issues and, you know, create understanding and adoption. And so that is how I have been able to use my platform for social good and also to ignite understanding among people.
The technology that I'm doing now is very much tied to my identity. Growing up alone from a very early age, lost my family when I was 14, and I took over the house and kind of everything in it. And learned early that life is not about things and all these achievements, but it's about people. And at the same time, in this small town, I didn't feel a part of the world or felt I could network outside. And this is many years ago, right? So we didn't have the technology we have today. But when mobile technology came and, like, you know, blew up a couple of years ago, I saw that if we can see people on a video profile instead of a photo, it changes the psychology behind what is strangers and changes the way we could network and give and hire. So it's been tied to my identity from that time.
My background is in politics. We used to joke that, you know, I would canvass in the womb and carry a Jimmy Carter lunchbox to school when I was a kid. But, you know, for the first probably 20 years of life, half of that was spent actively working on political campaigns. And the nature of political campaigns is that there is no real, you know, beginning, you know, or middle. There's one end, though. And whatever you do to get to election day and win on election day is what you need to do. And so every day you're constantly rewriting the plan and learning from what worked the day before. And, you know, as time has become more sophisticated and the tools have become more sophisticated, the ways in which we learn and the ways in which we change, you know, had to become more sophisticated as well. But the core of it has always been, for me, about you know, the idea of connection and persuasion and mobilization towards a very specific goal. You have to get someone to like your candidate, care about your issues, and show up on election day. They can like your candidate and care about the issues and not show up on election day, and you lose. So you have to have all the elements. So when I organize things like the project I'm running now, the Hive, is just a war room, the same way we have in every political campaign that has ever existed, where you get the brain trust together and you figure out on a constant basis, daily, hourly, what's changing, what have we learned, how do we apply it, and, you know, nothing about the past really applies exactly as it will in the future. So we have to figure out how to constantly move and constantly adapt. And I think the same is true in social change and social impact is, we have accomplished some things, we have learned a lot, but the challenges that we face today and the challenges that we'll face in the future are not going to be solved because we read a case study or we hired the person who did it last time. It's going to be hired because we're smart enough or collaborative enough to figure out how to take what we know and adapt it in new ways, just as you would any campaign day to day or cycle to cycle.
One of the projects that I worked on started out as an engineering project to apply engineering principles to problems that were existing in underserved countries. And we wound up in a situation on looking at power delivery, power generation and power delivery as the basis of something that would really change the game. And in the beginning, the high-tech end was, well, let's go high-tech power, let's figure out how to put power plants in, let's put grids in, and I'm going, oh my God, this is like a big problem if you go this way. And we wound up with a situation where we looked at solar power, we looked at a solar trailer, it was very simple, and it charged batteries, and those batteries then went into homes, and they charged homes with 2 LED lights and a cell phone, because the cell phone was the connection to the economic engine of the homes that were there in each of the countries that we were looking at. And the model that we wound up with was a milk delivery model where the batteries come and the batteries go, just like your milk bottles come and your milk bottles go. And it was a very simple solution. Instead of creating a microgrid and wiring a microgrid and worrying about who was going to steal the copper and everything, a very simple solution, and it worked. And it put 15,000 people with lights almost instantly. And so the idea of thinking high-tech is great. And sometimes high-tech is the answer. Cell phones were a game changer. So cell phones, deployment of that made sense. But in the power industry, the example, it didn't. And you have to be willing to consider both.
I have done a lot of travel, like on the ground and visited, women in their kitchens and also in places of commercial enterprise where women were cooking with big stoves, and have seen how the comparison between using stoves that burns solid fuels, like wood and charcoal, and then as compared to cleaner versions, And there is just a very, very, very big difference, I mean, right now you have cleaner versions like, converting animal waste, for biogas, for cook stoves. And then also certain cook stoves that are powered right now on ethanol, cleaner versions like ethanol, and then also LPG. And then you have solar cookers, smokeless electric stoves. So you have so many varieties right now. But the important thing is that these clean versions remove the pollutants in the air. They're much less emission, greenhouse emission. And so they are beneficial in terms of their health benefits are immensely incredible. And then, in addition to, there is also the environmental benefits. But apart from that, one thing too I noticed was that most households that have adopted cleaner cook stoves, there's a lot of savings when it comes to the household. So, most women who used to go out into the farms, and gather firewood, now, because of this efficiency, they have more time to dedicate to their families. And also, because this is also cost saving, they can also save a lot of money over the long period of time to be able to invest that in education. So its social impact is immense. And this is all due to technological innovation. Although it's very little, but its impact is just incredible. So I think that, for me, just traveling and seeing that and observing what the alternate is, I think we need more voices that can go out there and really be able to draw attention to people, because we have close to 3 billion people who lack access right now around the world to efficient cook stoves, and leading to 4.3 million deaths around the world. So it's a pretty serious issue, although it doesn't get that much attention like, issues like, malaria and polio, which already everybody knows what to do. So this requires more voices, more champions, and I myself as a musician, when I realized this, I knew that it impacts women a lot. So I have been on the ground just working, but I ask everybody here too to research on it and then become a voice too, so that we can be able to spread awareness about this issue.
Yesterday, a wonderful woman named S.J. Murray talked about the power of video. and how it is the most powerful medium to get the message out there. And it is the same thing with people. We might never beat the real life experience, because this is like real life, as close as you get. But how can you get closer with technology? And it's when you meet somebody, if you hear, oh, my dream is to work in music, and then you might, oh, I know somebody in LA, I can introduce you. And you do that because you've met the person. We wouldn't do that with complete strangers. We truly believe that it's when you see somebody, that's when you are willing to open up, to make new introductions, and we did our first hire in the app. This wonderful person named Julie did her video profile, and I was like, ooh, I want to hire her. And she's here today. And also, the bigger vision is part, I want you to also to be able to give cash directly in the app, because many of us want to see who we give to. And if we can see them, then can we change the way we also can also give cash-wise? So that is, it's part of why I do what I do. And as a woman, I mean, I think getting across that I'm much more geeky than I might look at. I sometimes wear heels and a dress, but I love sitting with the developers. I love working on iOS. I love testing bugs and fixing bugs, and I could talk products for hours, and getting that like across, that might be like an extra challenge, but apart from that, it's an honor to be able to innovate in this space.
I think there are plenty of examples I have, and that we all probably have, where we have learned from failure. In fact, I would argue that, you know, a good portion of my time is spent intentionally trying to fail so that I have the evidence that then allows me to, you know, get the buy-in or get the permission to go move on to the things that I think are more interesting and compelling. And I actually think that therein sort of lies the problem in this fail conversation, which is, yes, we are probably failing, but we are not failing big enough. So we're kind of safe failing and not learning enough from it, A. B, I don't think we're sharing the actual failures because there is still a stigma about failing. So maybe you fail internally, and you as an internal organization or internal structure, like, you know, we made a mistake and we learned from that mistake, and good for us, but the rest of us actually need to see the failures in other contexts so that we don't have to make those same failures. So I'm a big fan of, you know, being fearless and going forth and being failure, but I think actually as a space, as a social good, social impact type space, we are failing. We are doing a poor job at maximizing the opportunity that failure exists. We are not transparent about our failure. We are not truthful about the extent of our failure. And, you know, arguably as a result, we're not learning enough or fast enough from our failure. I have many frustrations in the social good, social impact space, but the one that is greatest is the lack of speed. This is my maybe 14th consecutive year at South by, and to be perfectly honest, there are still many of the same conversations happening over and over again amongst this crowd. There are new entrants to the crowd, and that is great. Yes, we should be talking about failure, but we should not be talking about failure being a good thing. We should be talking about specific failures and how that is going to propel us. And we don't do that. But, you know, like if we had more than 20 minutes, I can tell you all the things I failed at today and yesterday and the day before, because they are plentiful and I hope quite helpful and inspiring. But I think I'm one of probably a smaller list of people who would just sort of lay it out there. But, you know, I mean, 25 years of therapy and, you know, you're able to do these things. But I think, like, we need that, or we're going to have this conversation next year about failure is wonderful. No, failure is wonderful unless we don't take advantage of it.